This International Women's Day, we invite you to join us in celebration where everyone is invited. The theme is Inclusion Includes You, because no one should feel excluded by inclusion.
Inclusion should matter to everyone because it makes life more interesting. If you had groupthink from people of the same background, same gender, same race, life would be boring.
Single perspectives really create blind spots when thinking about new products and innovation.
If we don't open up the opportunity for everyone to have a seat at the table, to share their opinions, their experiences and wisdom, we will miss out as a society and as an industry.
If you can include everyone, then that's going to lift the entire population of people.
Men really have a part to play in this and how they can really help make the difference here.
Every voice matters, and it's our job to make sure that they're heard.
Everybody deserves a chance in life.
We want to give every single person the opportunity to be successful and make a difference.
Sign up, share the invite, help us make this industry a great place for all people to build their careers and bring their perspectives.
Inclusion includes me.
Inclusion includes you.
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 Inclusion includes me. Inclusion includes you.
Everyone, I am absolutely in awe of you all being here. Doesn't this just show how important today is, this month is, and that we have got the theme right this year. Inclusion includes all of us. So I'll be saying in my intro, inclusion includes me, slowly, so I don't fall over those words. Inclusion includes you, and inclusion includes all of us a number of times. If anyone wants to join me as I say that, I will welcome you to do so. We chose this venue specifically because it's accessible. We wanted to get sound right. We wanted to make sure you could read. We wanted to make sure that there was space for you to stand up, shake about, take a breath. We want you to feel as included and involved as possible in your learning journey today. And that is something that we are very passionate about. That events aren't just something that you attend and then forget about. We want you to go on a journey today of inclusion. We want to broaden people's horizons, get you to think about things in different ways. So if anybody doesn't know who I am, my name's Nadia, and I helped set up the recruitment firm Harrington Starr 15 years ago. We are passionate about inclusion and making this industry a better place. When I say this industry, we are focused on financial services, technology and sales. And making it a better place to me is about inclusion in every which way form it comes or doesn't come within a work environment. And for me, I've been so excited about supporting people grow in their careers. So when it comes to International Women's Day, what I love to do is talk about everybody in the process of somebody's career. It's not just down to that one individual to be more confident. Maybe it's about other people being more confident in that person. I have always been wedded to this idea of inclusion includes all of us. So I say again, inclusion includes me, inclusion includes you, inclusion includes all of us. Thank you very much to those who joined me in that. I'll be doing it again shortly. I would like to draw your attention to our workbooks. So if everyone could have a look at your clipboards on your seats and have a look at these workbooks. Something that's really important to us is that we're learning as we go. So firstly, I wanted to thank our sponsors, iPushPull, SteelEye and Tribe Payments. Without their support, this would not have been able to happen. I would like to thank our speakers. You will be introduced to them one by one shortly, and they'll be taking you on a journey of inclusion today, how you can be more active in including those around you, more active in including people's perspectives, their diversity of thought, their different opinions, and how we can all be better for it. So, looking through these workbooks, please, you will see there are questions. There's space for you to write down your notes and take away points. I want everyone to be thinking, what can I take away from today? What can I implement in my business tomorrow? What can I do to make my career a better career and support those and their careers around me? That is our mission for today. So we want to live that mission. We don't want to just say inclusion includes us all. We want to learn how to be better allies to one another. I'd also like to draw your attention to this book token. One of the things that we do as our International Women's Day events is we always provide a book corner because it's about learning. And we want people to learn from different voices and different perspectives. So today we are going to have an exchange. We would like you to write your name on this book token. We'd like you to write down one of your key takeaways or one of your pledges of what you're going to do. And after the event, we want you to take it over to that corner where we will allow you to have a look at all the different books that we've brought in, and you get to choose one to take away so you can extend your learning beyond today, because it's about that. I would very much encourage you to take a selfie with that book token. I would love for us to be posting this far and wide as we can, because if inclusion includes all of us, it includes all our connections. A post I did yesterday was what makes you think inclusion doesn't include you? And there are too many people out there that have chosen to step away from inclusion and choose that it's not their problem and that it doesn't include them and it includes other people that will have to go and fight for that. How do we get those people involved? And they are all our connections and all our people. So today we are going on that journey. So I say once more, I would love for you all to join me. Inclusion includes me. Inclusion includes you. Inclusion includes all of us. Thank you very much for joining us. I have to say one last thing about health and safety. If there is a fire alarm, it's not a practice, and we will walk very calmly out of the building right there, and we will follow the directions. There's lots of people to support us so that we know exactly where we're going. I am going to hand you over to some of our amazing speakers. The first is Eugénie, who will be talking about rethinking inclusion. Thank you.
Hi everyone, let me just see how this works. Yeah. So, why did I want to come on stage today on International Women's Day and talk to you about men? Well, I had a look back at my career so far, at my journey, and I realized that the people that had the most impact on my career so far were men. That includes the partners at VC funds who hired me, and the CEOs who trusted me to invest in their companies. And that's not surprising, actually, because the finance, tech, and VC world are still male and largely male-dominated today. But these people gave me an opportunity. These people sponsored me, advocate for me, and I think that's the most important part. So the reality today is that less than 15% of FinTech founders are women. Only 2% of VC funds goes to female-funded companies. Less than 10% of board seats at FinTech firms are held by women. And in VC funds, most partners are still men, which means that men still control most of the investment decisions. And if we want to drive FinTech forward, if we want to close this gender gap, actually reports show that the gender equality is the way forward. The BCG estimated that if men and women participated equally in entrepreneurship, global GDP would rise by as high as 6%. That means it would boost the global economy by up to $5 billion, sorry. So how do we get there? And actually, this is not about excluding or replacing men. This is about men and women working together, because an industry that is built by everyone is an industry that actually best serves everyone and hence enhances performance and returns. So firms have tried to create and implement and enforce DEI policies, diversity, equality, and inclusion policies, to help solve the gender gap. Have these been successful in finance and tech? Well, not really, not always. And actually, the main issue with these DEI policies is that they would mainly focus on quotas for hiring and promoting based on diversity criteria. And while quotas are important to solve the gender gap in the short term and accelerate change, they're not a long-term solution if not accompanied by real cultural shifts within those companies. And actually, quotas can have the inverse impact because they can actually create doubt and resentment within companies. Doubts with women that have been promoted and hired and feel like they've only been done so because of diversity criteria, and other people that don't meet those criteria that might feel excluded from them. Actually, when you look at companies like Goldman Sachs, they've been trying to close this gender gap and get to 50% female executives for decades, and have failed. And they announced recently that they're actually pulling back from these DEI policies alongside other tech firms like Meta because of recent US law developments. I won't get political here, and I will let you all have your own opinion about that. But I see this as like a reminder that policies alone don't create change. Culture does. And that's easier said than done, so where do we start? Well, the first thing for me is having the right set of policies to help female employees succeed in the long term. Policies are still a good way because they create a concrete way for companies to actually attract and retain female employees. But the main goal behind these policies should be to actually create a workplace environment when women feel like they belong as much as their male counterparts. And to give you a concrete example, when I joined my current VC fund, there was no paid maternity leave policy in place other than the one mandated by the UK law, which is precarious to say the least. And actually, like when I asked for this to my male partners, to my bosses, they didn't really understand why I was asking for this because they didn't know about the UK law. They didn't know, like they never had this scenario before with female employees. They didn't have any female employees before I joined. So I had to educate them a little bit. But I guess the point is, when they actually agreed and implemented what I was asking for, it made me feel like they supported me, like I belonged in this VC firm, and that I had a future there in the long term and in VC in general. And actually, this shouldn't be only about maternity leave. It should be about companies creating policies that really serves everybody, like parental leave, equal parental leave, childcare support, and flexible working hours. Because I believe that a workplace that, where everybody can thrive is one that retains the best talents in the long run. The second thing, actually, that I think is really, really important is promoting diverse leadership styles within companies. And this is more subtle. Often, women in male-dominated industries feel like they need to adopt typically masculine behaviors to be taken seriously and to be heard. Christine Lagarde, the president of the European Central Bank, actually noticed that when women speak in meetings, people tend to be more distracted, start checking emails or having side conversations. And to address this, she actually enforced a policy where people, when entering the meeting room, had to put their mobile phones face down on the table to ensure that all the attention was given to the speakers. There's a bit of a misconception that leadership and assertiveness should be linked somehow to masculinity and to traits like aggressivity and overconfidence. Mark Zuckerberg actually confirmed this recently by promoting a more masculine energy in his firm. And maybe that was successful for him in his journey. But I can see a lot of counterexamples of that in portfolio companies in our VC fund, in entrepreneurs that I've been working with. I can see examples of people that had these more masculine traits and failed, and other examples of people that didn't have these traits but had other strengths and succeeded. There shouldn't be one mold for leadership, and workplace should really be a place where you can promote diversity of thought, of approach, and this is really where you can retain the best talents. And actually, I think this real cultural change should come from the top. And this leads me to my last point. The power of sponsors in women inclusion. Sponsors are different from mentors. Mentors are somebody who helps you professionally, who advises you, guides you, helps you navigate through challenges. But this is still powerful. It's not as powerful as sponsorship when we really want to close the gender gap. A mentor would advise you, a sponsor would advocate for you. And this is so important. This is really where actually men have a key role to play, because men still hold most of the leadership positions in firms and actually hold the power to sponsor women. So quickly to recap, what can people in leadership positions do to help sponsor women in the workplace? Well, first, help promote an inclusive environment where women have the right policies in place to thrive in the long term. 2, promote diverse leadership styles. And this is so important to not really base your decisions on gut feel, but actually on performance when it comes to deciding who to back or who to promote. 3rd, champion women's voices. Make sure that in meetings, everybody is heard equally. And finally, actually, always reassess your policies and always challenge your unconscious biases. If women aren't speaking up in meetings as much as men, is it because they don't have any interesting ideas, or is it because they don't have the actual workplace environment to share those ideas with you. I think we all want the same thing here. We want to drive the industry forward. We want FinTech to be better. We want the best ideas to win. We want the best talent to rise to the top, and we want everyone to thrive. So let's not make this a women's issue. Let's make this an everyone's issue. I believe that men and women working together can drive the industry forward, and not just because it's the right thing to do, but because it's the smart thing to do. So now I'm speaking directly to people in leadership positions in this room. Think about your female colleagues. Think about people in this room. Who is the next woman that you can sponsor, advocate for, invest in? Because change starts with one decision, one opportunity, one voice at a time. Thank you.
Anyone who's been to a Harrington Starr International Women's Day event before will know that we always ask you to do pledges, to leave the event and you are going to do something. This year, we wanted to actually share with you what great things people have been doing on this topic of allyship and advocacy. So I'm going to ask a very dear friend of mine, Cecil, to stand up and share with us some examples of his allyship to women.
My name's Cecil. I'm a co-founder of FounderVine. We accelerate startups in so many different industries. And I never really considered myself an ally. I thought things were equal, and actually we didn't really need to change much. But I will say that my team is mostly women, and we really create a safe environment for women in our company. But one thing I'm really keen on is data. And we use data to make really important decisions in how we accelerate businesses and get investment. And one thing I noticed was that, and Eugénie said this as well, women get much less investment than men. All female teams get 2% of VC funding, which is ridiculous considering women create 20% of the businesses out there and also form 9% of UK unicorns. So the data says that there is something that isn't right. And that's one of the reasons why my organization created a female-only accelerator. And we went out and specifically found 45 amazing women founders to come on our accelerator. We had about 270 applications, by the way, so there's no pipeline issue. And we did this to show investors that there isn't a challenge and that they should think differently. And many of our women founders have already raised finance from that accelerator. So I don't see myself as an ally. I don't see D&I as an optional thing. I just think it's common sense. And yeah, that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Thank you, Cecil. I'm a big fan of talking about examples, case studies, evidence. Look at the good stuff that's happening. How can we take that further? Dion, I'd love for you to share some of your thoughts with us.
Hi, I'm Dion Play. I head up marketing technology, enablement and governance at Legal and General Investment Management. And thank you for having me here today. I'm a massive advocate for women. I've been lucky enough to have amazing female leaders in my life, including my mum. But what I find really interesting is the last 3 years I've dedicated my leadership position really to help support women through mentorship, through coaching, through free coaching, because it's important we give people opportunity. But lots of things that Eugénie said really resonate because it's about creating opportunity. As a leader, it's my job to activate and to create opportunity. So when you have new projects coming in, make sure you give women the opportunity, because if you don't get the opportunity, you can't thrive and you can't succeed. And even the coaching, lots of women struggle with confidence because, let's be honest, right? Legacy of the city is mostly male dominated. So, and men overtalk women all the time. So using your voice in the room and saying, can you let the person speak, please? Or we haven't actually heard this person's point of view is really, really important. So little things that we can do as leaders to activate and empower women in our workplaces. But most importantly, it's not just men. There's amazing female leaders in this room. You know, lots of female leaders sometimes, not all of them, once they get to the top, they forget and they close that door. Open that door and create a seat at the table to help support sisterhood. That's all for me.
Thank you, Dion. Thank you so much for sharing those examples of allyship. I'd like to welcome to the stage now the wonderful Oge to talk about more than one way to solve a problem. Thank you.
A friend messaged me yesterday to say, I'm going to screenshot a TikTok video for you. And I was like, okay, that's good, because one, I don't know how TikTok works, and you can screen record a video. But anyway, I digress. Can everybody hear me okay? Fabulous. I'm Oge Opera-Nadi. I'm the VP of Engineering at Hey Savvy. Hey Savvy is a fantastic female-founded, 3 female co-founders, all-female engineering leadership team, fashion tech, that is going to take on the world. So watch out for us. Before I start, please, I want to say, if you need to stand up, if you need to move, if you need to stim, if you need to do anything you need to do, completely fine. If you see me getting distracted, I'm neurospicy, it's not you. Just do what you need to do, be comfortable. I get that it's, you know, it's only a 12-minute talk, but back to back, we're actually sitting for a very long time. All good? Cool. So, I want to look at this from the other side. So we always talk about, you know, we need to be more inclusive and we need diversity of thought within our organizations. And typically people start to think about, okay, do we have, you know, the right gender, ethnicity, age, all of that. But I had an eye-opener myself, which was, I'm black, I'm gay, the gender one is a bit, okay, but I hadn't considered that even my own spaces were not as diverse as they needed to be, right? And I'll get to specific example, one personal, one professional. Personal one, I think it was only about 8 years ago I realized that men do not think about going home alone the same way that women think. Been to the gym with my colleague, a friend, and we parted up my car and I said, all right, then WhatsApp me when you get home? And he's like, why? And I was like, what do you mean why? WhatsApp me when you get home? And he's like, but why? And we ended up having this long conversation. We involved other friends, we had drinks, and I realized that men don't do that. I mean, I don't know if they do now, but 8 years ago, that circle didn't. But women, raise your hand if you've never automatically WhatsApped the person or called them that you went out with to let them know you got home. So again, it's not about whether it's right or wrong that men don't do this or that women do this. It's about understanding and appreciating that we may be coexisting in the same space and fundamentally our experiences are very different. And it's about being mindful of that. The professional one, I had to deliver on something. This was a few years ago, big, massive project. I thought, what do I do? I'm going to put a team together. We're going to build this in-house. I know how I'm going to maintain it. I've done this all before. It's going to cost X, Y, Z. Of course, I did the pros and cons. Should I buy it off the shelf? Should I not buy it off the shelf? And my first thought was, I'm not going to buy it off the shelf. It costs £200,000 per annum. No one is going to give me £200,000. And I internalized that it wasn't a negative limiting belief, it was fact. Based on my personal statistics in everything I've done in 23 years of being in software engineering, no one has willingly handed me anything, let alone £200,000 to spend every year on one piece of software. And then, coincidentally, I'm having coffee with someone. What are you doing? This is what I'm working on. I'm going to start recruiting. And the first thing he did, and this is white, cis, male, was, why are you not buying it? And I said, well, it costs £200,000. Okay, but why are you not buying it? Like, well, but I'm going to have to do X, Y, Z. He's like, no. All the effort that you are putting in into putting a team together, building it, maintaining it, supporting it, outweighs £200 per annum, both for yourself and for the organization. And this is what really got me thinking about, when we think about diversity of thought, diversity of our teams, diversity of our leadership, we also need to look at ourselves and see what are the echoes that we are not hearing because of the chambers that we're in. So, I want you to think about what I've just said, right? These are my experiences, but the core point I'm making here is that we need to appreciate what every unique individual brings. And it's not just about how we look or how we sound or what we do for a living or our socioeconomic backgrounds. It's about recognizing that when we're in spaces where we have a homogeneous majority, we are creating risk because we're not able to serve ourselves best, we're not able to serve the people that we are delivering for best, and we're not able to serve society best in general. How does this all tie in to what we do in our day-to-day jobs? I would challenge anyone here who doesn't have to have multiple meetings a day, right? Let me know what you do, maybe I want to come do that. But in these meetings, and especially in my background, I've been in technology, is always the case that there is a person who has the fundamental idea, or they have the fundamental reputation, or they become the person that everybody kind of listens to. And as the group starts to become, again, homogeneous, either in the way that they look, or in their backgrounds, or in the way that they talk, you tend to find that those conversations tend to be all very nice and, you know, we're all on the same page and we're getting along. But I challenge that. I challenge that. The next time you're in a meeting and everybody agrees so quickly, ask yourself, do we have enough diversity in the room across multiple fronts to challenge our assumptions, to challenge our beliefs, to challenge our perceptions? Because if we don't have that, we're going to end up building things or creating ecosystems that only service a certain majority. Eugénie had a very, very good example, and so did you as well, about when you are in spaces, how are you letting other people's voices be heard? It's very easy to say, well, I'm not going to say anything, so maybe that's why that other person is not saying anything. But I will tell you from personal experience, when you go into a Zoom meeting and you look at 100 faces and you're the only black face in the room on your screen, you're not thinking about, I have something relevant to say. You're thinking about, should I be opening my mouth? Am I allowed to speak? And it doesn't matter how far you've come. And I use black as an example because that's my race, but it could be anything. It doesn't matter how far you've come. It doesn't matter how many times you've dealt with these things. When you are the other, there is a fight or flight response that goes on in your head, and you cannot control that. But what we can do as allies is recognize that there is an other in every one of us. So if you don't want to use your voice, accept the privilege that you have it and use it on behalf of somebody else. Exact example, this person hasn't said a thing, so maybe they have something to say. Or it's the flip. Maybe someone is saying too much and not giving other people space. So maybe you can use your voice in that moment to create a pause, a space for your voice to be heard and for other people's voices to be heard. The final thought I want to leave with you, if you look at your workbook, the bottom corner, it's about who is going to support you or empower you in what you're going to do next. And I want to talk about elevation and succession. Because many a time when we plan for succession, we assume it's going to be the best performer. But we only start to look at that when we are ready for that succession planning in a role or promotion, appraisals. But actually, then it's too late. We should be looking at succession planning across the board as early as possible. And what this means is make sure that you are helping your teams to be ready for when you have to pick. So you're not picking who looks like the best based on just recent observations. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, sorry. Thank you very much, Oge. That was exceptional and so thought-provoking about feeling the other. And I think there's so many of us that can relate to that, but that there's an other in all of us. And I think there's so much kindness and empathy that can come out of that when we start thinking like that. Talking about people who want to learn and learn about the other experience, I have another ally that I would love to stand up and share his experiences. Simon.
So, hello everybody, my name's Simon Schofield. I'm a technology leader who works in asset management. I think that learning, why do you come to events, what are you learning, is really interesting. Obviously, I feel I'm preaching to the converted. You've all turned up at an event, the standing room only. You must have 1,000,001 drivers of what brought you here today. I'm just going to share some personal things. Now, I've got 3 key points to make. The first one's really around community. I think community in the FinTech space is absolutely amazing. And I would really encourage anybody, whatever level you are in your career, to come be an active participant in the community. It pays back in so many different ways. The second thing, and I think we've heard so much of this today, is really perspectives. Actually, this is personally why I really love coming to events, to hear people's different perspectives, their journey, working in their shoes. It's a real eye-opener. We all come from our backgrounds, our past, but to hear other journeys, that's what really makes it for me and makes every event exciting to come to. And then finally, and I think this is really important as a male ally, I think it's support. Time is the most valuable thing that you've got. If you can come to an event here, that just amplifies the message, right? Simon comes to an event, he takes time out. This is an important thing, not just to the people in the room, but to the people back in your other communities and into your workplace. So I think for me, they're the 3 amazing reasons why you should turn up at events.
Allyship. I'm always talking about it. It's one thing saying inclusion includes me, inclusion includes you, but actually it's the actions, and this is what I really wanted to highlight today. So Suresh, I'd love for you to share some of your thoughts too.
I'm Suresh Vajiani. I'm CEO of Cloud9, and I wouldn't really consider myself an ally. I kind of consider myself as a vocal observer. When it comes to companies, I've been very fortunate to work with many companies that have succeeded and become unicorns and others that have failed. And one thing that I've seen as a common trend is the ones that succeed, it's about having a level playing field. And there's so many companies out there where you end up having a really good team of people, including female leaders, that you often take for granted. And you think, oh, we're doing well now, there's more money on the table. And you end up promoting people from other companies, from somewhere else. And what I've seen all too often is kind of females being taken for granted in terms of, oh, they're not complaining, they're not vocal. And sometimes I think the other thing people should realize is women sometimes can be very negative on themselves, almost too honest. I've sometimes been in meetings where people say, oh, I'm not technical, I don't have that knowledge. And they have more knowledge than others in the room. Anyway, I'm running out of time, so thank you.
Thank you, Suresh. I believe that with these examples, these case studies, it will give more people the power to be more active rather than to think somebody else can deal with inclusion, somebody else can sort this problem out. It's for all of us and all of us to get involved. So it's my pleasure to invite Ashlea to talk about AI with heart.
Can everyone hear me? Okay, great. So, first of all, I want to start by saying, let's think about one moment. Just let's have one moment. And then in this moment, I want us to think about one word. And that word is empathy. Especially with what's going on in the world right now, empathy is a word that we're going to need a lot of. And we're going to need to think about it, but we're going to actually have to use it. But when it comes to our AI, shouldn't empathy be also in our AI? Let me take you to a time where I knew as an AI developer that AI needed to be empathetic. My co-founder and I were developing a financial AI assistant. And what we wanted it to do is to talk to people, especially about their finances in times where they couldn't get that expert, where they could ask questions and it was expert, it was human-like, and it felt like you were speaking to someone that knew them. We were developing it and we were putting in every single question and answer and question and answer. And it took so long. But fast forward to 2021, we got a shiny new key. It was brand new, as they say. It was AI that can generate. This was generative AI. It can do everything for you. So for us, we thought, wow, our development is going to be sped up. our financial AI system is going to be so smart. But because my co-founder and I came from wealth management, we knew if it's going to speak to people, it's going to impact people, we need to know, what is it going to do? What is it going to say? We can't see inside of this AI that's so-called new. It's a black box. How is it going to respond to us? And that's when we said, okay, we've got to test it out. Started testing it, and after loads of questions, I then came to one question that made me think. I asked it something that I think people will understand, especially now. I lost my job, and I'm worried about my finances. Can you help me? And the response I got was, rearrange your portfolio and stop spending. Okay, that's technically correct. And anyone here from wealth management will say, and as an advisor will say, that's actually correct. However, if you said that to a person, a human here, any one of you, you would hope that they would say, I'm so sorry. I really feel for you right now. Don't worry, it's okay, you lost your job. It will get better. But no matter how much I tried with this AI, it could not tell me that. It kept on saying the cold responses, and that's when I knew AI was missing the human touch. AI is in our lives. I am sure you have probably heard it on LinkedIn and everywhere else. AI, 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 AI. I heard it. I've heard it. I'm in it. And I'm getting sometimes sick and tired of it. But it's shaping our lives. It's there. It's in our apps. It's in our phones and computers. It's going to be in our TVs if it's not already. And so when you're thinking about it, it's there all the time with you. Shouldn't we be asking ourselves the question, does it truly understand us though? Every single person in here is unique. We have unique fingerprints. So does the AI know everyone, their thoughts, their feelings, their inspirations, their fears, anxieties? Do they understand us? Should we be not asking that question if we're integrating it into our companies and into our lives? Should that question not be at the thought, right at the beginning of our mind? So what does it mean for AI to be empathetic? Well, if you think about it, AI is not just in our finances, I know that, but it's also in our healthcare. It's in our jobs. We might have to start using it. And so for it to be empathetic, we have to understand that we want it to come back to us with responses when we're finding that day really hard. We want it to say to us, don't worry, it's okay, let me help you out. Also what we want is when we're doing applications or we're looking at customer services. I'm sure everyone has had that whole situation where they are trying to say to that one AI voice system, number one, not three, one. And it still does not understand you and the frustration it can give you. So when it comes to being empathetic, it has to understand us. If it's in our healthcare, if it's in our finances, if it's in our everyday work, it needs to be empathetic. And you know why? Because it says it there. It can get it wrong. I know. I developed this stuff. I know firsthand it can get it wrong. It can get it right. And wow, it's amazing. But it can get it wrong. And who's going to be impacted? It's not the AI doesn't care. It's each and one of us that will be impacted. It will get it wrong when you actually start using it and it says to you, you are denied for that loan or that mortgage, for that house that you've been waiting for. Or it says you do not get that job. Not because you didn't do anything, it just wasn't trained enough to understand you, to understand how you write applications. It doesn't understand your personality, your quirks. It will just say, tick, 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 nope, okay, I don't know that, I haven't seen it, deny. That's when we know it impacts humans. It doesn't impact AI. So when it comes to inclusion, it means everyone. We're here today because we want that. We want it to be about us all together. When I look at AI, and AI is, we hear it, AI is going to take our jobs. AI is going to take our jobs. We're not going to have a job. When we look at inclusion, we have to think that AI does not know anything, doesn't know the faces here that I see, these amazing faces, doesn't know that. It doesn't care. It only cares what it's being shown, the data that's being put in it, the points that it has to look for and it's being trained to look at. AI needs to have inclusion. It needs to see all of us. And if we don't see all of us, it's going to say to us, I don't know who you are. But if we can do that with our AI, shouldn't we be doing that with each other? Shouldn't we be accepting each other, including all our voices? Because AI, if we're going to be having a problem, it's the AI that is going to look at each one of you and it doesn't care who you are. So that should be the same with us humans. So AI that truly matters and understands us is something that we live in a world that is great. It's fantastic. It knows us, it understands our fears and anxieties, and it will work with us, not replace us. The future is in our hands. We are the ones that created AI. Not AI created AI, we created AI. So we need to put the power back in ourselves. And it's important that when you're integrating it in your lives or your daily work, that we take a moment to think about who is developing it, who is really behind it. And we need to be part of it and have the superpowers in this room, that each one of us shine. Each one of us have these superpower human clothing that feels good, makes us really 10x's the superhuman talent that we have inside of us. Because inclusion means me, inclusion includes you, inclusion includes us all, and we will all be affected if we don't put inclusion at the heart of AI. Thank you. I'm Ashlea Atigolo.
Wow, I absolutely loved that. Some brilliant talks so far. And thank you for saying it again. Inclusion includes me, inclusion includes you, inclusion includes us all. There was a piece that I wanted just to touch upon, and that piece is around if we are going to work on AI being more inclusive, how do we work on us being more inclusive? So I wanted just to bring a couple more allies to the fore. I'd like Billy to talk about being brave enough to try.
Hello, everyone. My name is Billy Chalk, Managing Director of Delta Financial Systems. In my organisation, we encourage a culture of bravery, and that culture is never more relevant than on days like International Women's Day. Being brave means having the courage to ask questions and challenge why. It's having your teammates back when it's easier to stay silent. It's challenging bias in a meeting and making space for all voices to be heard. It's about being willing to try, to fail, to learn, dust ourselves off and try again. Because courage isn't just a moment, it's a mindset. And real change happens when we encourage those around us to be, every day, just a little braver than before. So today, I challenge you. When the moment comes to be an ally, step up. Because bravery inspires bravery, and that's how we can make a lasting impact.
Thank you, Billy. Really powerful words. I'm going to now turn to a dear friend of mine, Chris Foster, to talk about the power of female leadership.
Hi, everybody. So I'm coming from a slightly different angle. So I've only ever seen female leadership in my life, right? From my mother to my support worker, you know, growing up in a special needs school. But it's also a celebration moment for me because 3 years ago, tomorrow, I started within this industry. And it took a leader to believe to employ someone with special needs. And to think 3 years later, I'm the co-founder of a project called Project Nemo, talking about inclusion.
Woo!
But what's so important is for so many different reasons, is because 2 years ago, I was invited at EWPN to speak at an incredible conference. But my mentor, she said something that was so powerful, and she said, passing the mic. There are women in this room right now that has exactly done that for me, time and time again. Nadia being one of those people, for continually passing the mic to widen the conversation about disability inclusion. So it's only my right not just to give that back, but also pass the mic to others so then their voice can be heard as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Chris, whenever you speak, I get emotional. How am I supposed to finish this off? My last ally is Rick, who's got so many wonderful things to say about how he's supported those around him. So Rick, please share your thoughts.
Hello everybody, my name is Rick Biggs, I'm with Money Hub. FinTech in financial tech really, surprisingly. I had a chat with Nadia and she got me thinking about today, International Women's Day, how women have influenced me in my life. Of course, a few of the allies I mentioned, my mother first, of course, but also women have been important in my career. And the first woman I worked for, who had or held an executive leadership role was fundamental to my career. She was different to my experience previously. She was exceptionally professional, very successful. She ended up being in a big corporate, running the international division, and just exploring the world and taking this company across the world and developing it. But when I really look at why she was successful, it was about her style, her management, and how she mentored her team, how she encouraged people. She was an ally. It was probably the earliest example I saw of somebody operating as a true ally. She was exceptional at it, and she promoted talent, she encouraged it, and she pulled people up. And I love that. And so in my career, I've tried to follow that. And actually, I'm going to stop now, but I'm going to leave you with this. What I found is it works. It drives success, and it drives your success as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. And it surely does. And when we aren't looking at diversity of thought, we miss so much. So our final speaker is Lynda. Welcome you to the stage to talk about going beyond the obvious. Thank you.
I'm just going to explain why I have the laptop here. Had a little bit of a medical issue last week, which means my memory is not so great. So if I'm leaning towards this, I'm using the inclusion includes me today. So, and I'm not sure how I follow some of those speakers. That was amazing. And actually, hopefully, this links in a little bit to some of the discussions that we've been having. And we were talking about making sure we hear voices. You know, everyone's voices can be heard. And I think that's part of what I'm trying to get through today. So just want you to think about a question. So have you ever seen a great product, great solution, great idea that you think, why didn't I think of that? Raise of hands. Me, definitely. Daily. Okay, come back to that. But too often, I think we still think about diversity as demographics. So it's that checklist. It's the, am I male, female? Which age group am I? Where am I from? And I want to move away from that. So my discussion today is going to be about diversity of thought. So about what you give to conversations from your experiences. And whilst it may feel more comfortable surrounding ourselves with individuals who agree with us all the time, it's nice to feel that you're right all the time, isn't it? Often, as we mentioned earlier, we miss out on a whole vast array of perspectives. And they can be incredibly costly to miss out on some of these. Now, I just want to put a little disclaimer in. I am going to talk about some companies, and as it was mentioned earlier, I know that it is a bit painful to think about some of the DEI initiatives that are being rolled back globally at the moment. My examples, please don't kill me, are from the last couple of years of things that actually I'm using in my daily life as well. So hopefully you understand that. Okay. So some of you heard me speak, I think at the EWPN, I think it was back in October, where we had an event in London. And I told a story basically stolen from a Matthew Said book about blind spots and how it could have a major impact and things. And one of the most striking ones I spoke about, which I still remember all the time, is the CIA's miss on the 9/11 attacks. So at the time, the CIA was dominated by Western League, the best of the best white males. And they were brilliant, you know, they were smartest people that you could find. But their really narrow perspective led them to grossly underestimate the radical Islamic threats that were before them. And obviously the consequences were catastrophic. I'm not going to retell the whole story, but today I'm going to focus more on how this same lack of perspective in blind spots creates blunders in businesses, is all I can kind of call them. It creates inadequate products, sometimes a bit of a PR backlash, and certainly poor adoption. And the challenge with blind spots is they're blind spots. We do not see them coming. So people tend to overestimate their own abilities and their own knowledge in the room, kind of parking everyone else's opinions. So some real life consequences then. So you'll see 3 logos, a couple in red, 1 in green. These are really interesting. So when I was doing some research on how this really impacted businesses, one of the big ones that came up was Apple. So Apple, probably something you've all used, have a health app. It tracks your sleep, it tracks your steps, you name it, it tracks it. But when it launched back in 2014, it actually failed to track the menstrual cycle. So for millions and millions of people, it excluded something that's really, really important to them. Okay, they had a huge backlash and they had to very quickly go and do some more product development and relaunch with that. We talked about AI earlier. Early Siri and Google versions of voices, they were trained by male voices, so they actually struggled to recognize female voices, so it was very inaccurate for women. And probably one of the most scary things I read, and it kind of makes me a bit worried about using my car now, but for years, car safety tests had crash dummies that were predominantly based on men. So the average male, like 5'10", 75, 80 kilos, not me, probably not a lot of women. And actually, scarily, these stats show that women were 47% more likely to be injured in a traffic accident because of this. So Volvo, which is why they're in green here, actually took that data and they created female versions of the crash test dummy and actually lowered the statistic, which is why they're renowned for their vehicle safety. You know, they use that as a competitive edge. But blind spots go beyond gender. So I've given some gender versions, but we're not here to talk just about gender. Inclusion includes everybody. They affect race, ethnicity, social economic status. So if we click, here's some other examples that perhaps I think have become even more important to think about as you expand your teams overseas or you go into different segments and new markets. I don't know if any of you remember Pepsi had what they called the Come Alive campaign, which is, I think it was like, come alive, you're in the Pepsi generation, something like that. And they launched this, and they launched it globally. But in Chinese, unfortunately, it translated to Pepsi brings your ancestors back from the dead. Yeah. Clearly not going to go down well in China, particularly with the significance ancestor worship. But the campaign flopped, unsurprisingly, and Pepsi had to rework their entire strategy for the region. Similarly, McDonald's, when they launched in India, failed to think about the vegetarian population and the huge adverse beef population, so they had to go back and relaunch their entire menu, adding kind of vegetarian and chicken, so that's why we can thank them for chicken burgers these days. But just not thinking about different cultures and different experiences that people live really created them huge issues, big, costly issues. And we can take that recognition, to, the voice recognition example earlier. What about, and we were having a discussion earlier, I can't remember who it was with, but the languages and accents and the way it's actually able to pick you up is still not quite there. But if we flip this beyond making the costly mistakes, diverse mindsets can actually be beneficial to companies and they can launch new products based on this. So a really great example is Lego. We all know Lego. I hurt my feet on it quite regularly. But they predominantly marketed their products to boys. Boys like construction in their mind, and that's how they went for many, many years, until they realized there was a huge, huge untapped market with girls. And they employed female product development specialists and marketeers, and launched things like Lego Friends, which I'm sure most people have heard of. And it cemented Lego as one of the biggest toy providers globally. Just an example of how thinking differently can do that. But when we talk about inclusion, and this is where I want to kind of touch upon some of the things that the earlier speakers spoke about, was inclusion kind of is missing, diversity is missing without inclusion. So a powerful example of everything I'm trying to speak about comes from a business researcher called Catherine Phillips. The diverse teams that she wanted them to solve a murder mystery. So she put together a homogenous team and she put together a diverse team. And actually, the interesting thing was not the results. The diverse team was right and the homogenous team was actually wrong, which is interesting, but their experiences were what were interesting. The homogenous team, they all agreed with each other. They thought each other was brilliant and they really thought they'd got the answer right, but they were wrong. But the diverse team, they argued, they challenged each other, but generally they were right in the end. So 3 things, which I'll come to. So just before I come to the my 3 tips, Google, after many years of research, found that the number 1 factor is not just who is on the team, but how safe people feel contributing ideas, which I know is something that we've spoken about over here. Without inclusion, diversity just falls flat. So we do need cultures where we try and make people feel safe, let people challenge you. And I think one of the things that stuck out a moment ago, I think it was from Oge's speech, where you talked about people sitting there in silence. So one of my, hopefully one of my points will touch upon that in a moment. So as individuals here, what actions can we take? So challenge your own blind spots. We all have them. Don't tell my husband, he thinks I'm right all the time. But recognise that you do have blind spots. One of the things I've started to do, which is actually quite fun, is to designate a rebel in meetings. So if you're having a meeting, you can't have different mindsets all the time. So have a rebel. And for Emma, who's in the room today, yes, it is often your husband. Basically, I task them in challenging me. Even if they agree with me, tell me I'm wrong, challenge me, allow other people to think that that's a natural thing and challenge each other to bring fresh perspectives. Silent meetings. So this is one that I think counters the people that are sitting there in silence. Give people space to think. So create an environment where diverse ideas can flourish. Allow people time to prep for the discussion. So for example, Amazon, they replaced their PowerPoint presentations with written memos. So they gave team members time to read and reflect and provide feedback before the meeting. Or have silent collaboration or ideation sessions where you give a topic and you let people write things down and then you talk about the things they've put up on the board. It stops that dominant voice. You know, everyone's experienced those meetings where you can't continuously have the same person talking all the time. And then expand your feedback channels. So one of the things here is you can't simply hire people overnight to get that diverse perspective. If you're creating a new product, if you've got a complex challenge that you're trying to solve, you can't just hire people in to do that from diverse backgrounds. So a couple of things that you could do: run hackathons, idea competitions within your organisations or your communities. And one that I've loved doing myself, and people in Tribe will know this pretty well, is I created something, we call them SWAT teams, like SAS coming in, but really they're just mini squads of people across the organisation that are from different seniority levels, so from junior to senior, across the countries. And when we have a problem, we chuck a SWAT group at it. And what is really interesting now is I don't have to create them anymore. The teams self-create them. So they see a problem, they create a SWAT group, and suddenly we have these little mini task forces going around doing it. So just a few things that I'm kind of playing with at the moment. There's tons of things that you can do to try and have more inclusion within your organisation, but those are some tasks. So let me just, I know they need me to stop, but just one moment, but just visit back to my original question, okay? And I asked you, how many of you have ever thought, why didn't I think of that? The truth is, thankfully, it doesn't really matter, right? Because if you have the right SWAT groups, you have the right teams and people around you, somebody will. Thank you.
So we all need to be rebels and have SWAT teams. And the SWAT teams will grow and create themselves. And that's what I really wanted for today, for all of you to take away these key bits of information that you all say, wow, I want to go and implement that. I can take that into my office. That can be my next suggestion. That can boost the people around me. And I hope it's opened your horizons. So I wanted to thank everyone for attending today. I've absolutely loved listening to our speakers. I wanted to thank the speakers for all the preparation you've done and the wonderful learning you've shared with us. Thank you very much. I would like to thank our allies. It was amazing to have you all stand up and share what you are doing. It's not just about what we will do, it's the good stuff that's happening now. So thank you, allies. And thank you to our sponsors, iPushPull, SteelEye and Tribe Payments, because without them, we would not be able to go and have a lovely lunch now. We would not be able to have these amazing professional headshots. Everyone, please get involved. Everyone here, please don't forget, we want you to do the swap, your key learn or your pledge, something that you've got from today. Fill in your name. Don't forget to do your selfie and post that as well, please. But swap that over there for a book so we can continue our learning. We can share this learning amongst all of our networks. If we all think how many connections each of us have, and we make a positive interaction with even 50% of those connections, 10% of those connections today, it's not just about International Women's Day. It's not just about International Women's Month. It's about every day of the year. And inclusion does include us all. And how can we bring more people into our work on this? It's not just today, it's for the future. And despite all the challenges that we're facing on inclusion right now in the world, I couldn't feel more positive right now. This has been a show of strength. Look how many people have taken their morning out to attend today. Look how many people have been writing notes down, doing posts already, taking videos. We have walked the talk today. We have chosen to be in this room. And what I really want is for us to choose to take this room further and take it back to each of our rooms so that we can continue that learning. So let's show that strength day in, day out. People are referring women. People are advocating for women. People are putting women forward, whether that's saying their name in the pitch, in the deal, in the promotion, in the meeting, advocating, saying their names. This is going to continue moving forward. So I say one last time, inclusion includes me, inclusion includes you, inclusion includes all of us. Thank you so much and enjoy your lunch.